The Express.
Welcome back to the Express podcast. We are grateful to have on Cubs center fielder Pete Crow-Armstrong, or better known as PCA. He has such an awesome journey from childhood to the big leagues, as well as an interesting perspective in his baseball life. Pete takes us through his life during the minor leagues and changes that he would make to the physical and mental development of young athletes. There's lots of wisdom thrown around on this episode. We hope you enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome back to the Express podcast, everybody. Brought my young brethren, little kid, young buck on, Pete Crow-Armstrong. So welcome. We're excited to have you today.
Last name.
Thanks.
Yeah, great last name.
Thanks.
Great last name.
I'm pumped to be on here.
Just to get going, it's funny, man. I was like reading. I mean, obviously I know a lot about you, but just like reading into it and everything. And it's so unique. We were talking about this earlier, how everyone in baseball and in sport really, but especially in baseball, just has a unique story. Some people, kind of like underrated their whole lives and they get to a certain point. But a guy like yourself, who's kind of always been a consensus like prospect dude since you were a little kid, is so fascinating to kind of like follow that journey. So if you want, could you just dive into just kind of the start of your love for baseball and how it's led you to here?
Oof. Yeah. It is funny, all the different paths that bring all of us to the same place. I got a very interesting like early baseball life. Being in SoCal, you get to play every day. And it's also really easy in SoCal to play a bunch of different sports growing up because there's always that sport in season. The weather never really keeps you inside. So like I was playing baseball, soccer, basketball, dabbled in flag football, but I really I found the love for baseball just in the backyard, like wiffle ball, trying to switch hit, like just staying athletic and embracing like what wiffle ball is as a kid, because I think there's been times recently where I'm like, bring that back, like bring that feel back, you'll help yourself a little bit. But my dad and my mom were both like super involved in all of my athletics growing up, and they're both pretty athletic themselves. But I really like took off in baseball. I think when I was like 12, I stopped playing Little League. I got into like a bigger
Like the travel
circuit. Yeah. Like Team USA when I was 12. Like guys like Mason Wynn, Paul Skeens, like random people that are doing really well for themselves in there right now. But that was when I kind of realized, oh, maybe you can do this on a bigger scale. Like I built confidence, I think, around the age of 12 and kind of just picked baseball at that point, stopped playing other sports, and it was baseball.
And it's so wild too, because thinking about like even when we were growing up playing, I would say around, like, not that when you're 12 that's a separating factor, because I was a late bloomer and everything, but you really do start to understand.
You can tell.
Yeah, you can tell if like somebody's kind of got it or not. And like maybe they don't have it fully physically yet because they are like not mature. Some guys are 6 foot by the age of 12, and I'm like over here like 5'1" trying to like survive. But you can tell people that like have an ability to adapt and to like adjust in game, and like, man, like their hand-eye coordination is so much better than everybody else's. Like they can run, they can like, I'm sure you were tracking balls down when you were 12 the same way you do now. Like it's kind of always been a specialty of yours. And so but yeah, so around the age of 12 you start kind of realizing like, hey, like these other kids are pretty good, but so am I.
Yeah.
And so then where do you go from there?
I think a little bit before then I started playing with my club ball team that was like it was supposed to be a feeder program into Harvard Westlake, the high school I went to, and weirdly good coaching for 12U baseball, but like you could see the intention behind it, like looking back now. I would like to assume that these coaches that I ended up being around for 6-7 years, like they had that belief in me and some of my friends from the jump, and really took a liking to our team and our age group. So like post 12U stuff, I just started playing with Pacific Baseball Academy. We called it PBA.
PCA on PBA.
Yeah, pretty close. Pretty close. So yeah, I don't know. I just I started playing with like the same group of guys from 12, 13 till high school with a lot of them through our senior year, and that was kind of it. Like I was pitching at that point still. I was still throwing, trying to at least.
Yeah.
I don't think I loved, like I knew pretty early on I didn't love pitching like I loved roaming center field. So yeah, I mean I got into Harvard Westlake for 9th grade, and then that was kind of history from that. I was just there. And
Notable Harvard Westlake alum Max Fried.
yes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Frequent guy on the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two-way.
I mean, yeah, two-way
at Harvard Westlake.
special.
Yeah.
Him, Jack Flaherty,
Flair and
Giolito.
Gio.
Yeah. Cash Stanley.
Cash, Johnny Juzang,
Factory.
Yeah, I
Ben
got some dudes.
Halleck and Johnny Hooper. They're two men's Olympic water polo players.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about the water polo there. It's crazy.
Arguably the best program Harvard Westlake has. Besides
That's interesting.
rivals baseball for sure, and that's from. I really think that at that age, like coaching is very important. Guidance is very important. And the two things, or the one thing that those two programs share is like the guidance. It's pretty hard nosed at that age, and water polo kind of has to be.
I couldn't survive. We talked about I couldn't survive that.
Right, like you got to be somewhat militant
Treading water.
to do that
Give me a
for
break.
however long. I mean,
Barely swim.
Well, and it's like a physical battle going on within.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're treading water, but you're also.
Yeah.
It's like playing like pool basketball. You're
Yeah.
exhausted.
there's
Yeah.
no rules
And
really
I'm not
either.
treading
Like,
water.
Yeah, and you're not treading water.
yeah, getting grabbed under the water and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah,
so the
yeah.
refs
A lot of
can't
funny
see.
It sounds like what
Oh.
nightmares are made of
Oh.
right there, brother.
Pinched and kneed and everything. I've
Yeah.
heard the worst, but no, those two programs were definitely at the top of Harvard Westlake. But boys basketball definitely turned a corner when Cassius and Johnny were there, and then Cash left and went to Sierra. But Johnny was kind of like that 12-year-old baseball player you see where like Johnny's never been the most athletic guy, especially next to Cassius.
But he's like always he always gets to his spot.
He's always been able to
like,
shoot.
under control.
He
Like,
did everything right. Like
yeah.
he was somebody where like instinctually you're like, oh, he's got it for sure.
That's like the guy they say that he plays off 2 feet. You know, the coach like
Yeah.
that guy plays off 2 feet.
Yeah.
Watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting. And it's funny you bring up the coaching point too, because I mean we have, coaches and people like that listen to our podcast. So like when you say the guidance, can you dive in a little bit deeper on like what you mean by that? Was it teaching you the game? Was it teaching you like the X's and O's of baseball? Was it the passion behind it? What was it that helped?
Kids at Harvard Westlake are really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And in the baseball program they are too. But I think what a lot of us lacked, and I was a little different because I wasn't so like, oh, I'm gonna open a book and be able to figure all this stuff out. It was more so like the other side of things where I could probably understand a baseball situation better than most of the Harvard Westlake kids at some point. So like teaching Harvard Westlake students, these crazy thinkers, like how to translate that into baseball. And we had the perfect coaching staff to do it. They were all SoCal guys. They grew up around the same areas as us, and they didn't care about like financial background or whatever parents were asking or anything like that. They just treated all of us relatively the same. Like, so I would, like the ins and outs of the game and the X's and O's for sure. But like, they loved talking to me about like what I thought of Corbs and because I wanted to go to Vandy for so long. And when I got to like visit and see a practice, they're asking me about what kind of went down in there. And I think that says a lot about their willingness to learn and adapt, because I think that showed me that they know where they're at in their lives too. Like they're not going to pretend that they know everything, but at our age, like we need coaches to be able to like set you off in the right direction. And I definitely needed that. You talk about passion, and Michael Ryan, actually, who was my AA manager last year, he talked to me a lot about passion versus emotion. and figuring out how to like be passionate and not let emotion drive like how you react to things. That's something I figured out late, but I also needed the help with that sort of area of things and dealing with failure and whatnot pretty strongly in high school. And those guys that I had were definitely the right people to do it. But yeah, I think, you know, back to the guidance thing, it's like, if I'm still, you know, 21, 22, trying to figure out the balance of, you know, how to be okay with your failure, but also use it to drive you and piss you off or whatever you need from it. You know, I think if I still needed that at 21 versus 16, 17, that shows the emphasis on like, at that age, you do need the guidance and like the structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, I mean, you're still very young at 20. I mean, we're 30. That sounds weird to say, but
Still trying to figure it out, brother.
everyone, and we talk about that like with your dad, like the second you figure out that everyone is literally trying to figure it out on a day-to-day basis, it kind of, you know, for the, you know, average person listening, it just kind of makes it a little more simplistic, I would guess. But that's good about that's a good, we always were, so I coached high school football for a long, and so I really started doing this media thing. And so like we were always encouraged to like go to different colleges and see different, you know, coaching staff. What do they do? What do they practice? Like, what does their practice look like?
Yeah.
What are the habits they have? And I say this all the time. The most impressive practice that I went to was, you're not going to believe this, it was Coach Collins at Georgia Tech.
Really?
They're not wasting time, brother. Them boys, they got a drill. He'll say, hey, I need 5 guys. No one looks around, 5. Boom. Hey, we're going to this. We're going at 2:31. The horn blows at 2:31. People were moving at 2:29. Like, it was the most.
Interesting.
Like, I was like, Coach, how long y'all going to practice today? He's like, we'll practice an hour. I was like, okay. I was thinking like hour. It was an hour on the dot.
Interesting.
So I was curious, what, like when you went to the Vandy practice, what's one of the things that you saw?
When did you go? I was gone. Yeah.
Yeah, you were gone.
Old head.
Just saw your statue out in front.
Yeah.
There's not a statue for
No,
y'all
there's
want
not.
There will be. There will be.
No.
Whatever. God, I went. I was probably 15. So
Oh wow, so you're young.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
were 15.
I was 15.
So
It
this
was
is what, like 2017?
Yeah.
16? 2016, 2017?
It was like probably 15, 16, or
Okay.
16, 17. Yeah. 16, 17. Probably fall of 16. Anyways, it was crazy because you think of Vandy and I mean at that age my naivete, whatever you call it, like I'm thinking gear, like Nike deal, whatever they got, like all that stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
the cool unis, they all got the cleats, whatever it was.
What's like, we talk about the easiest colors to have the best stuff with,
Yeah.
like black and gold,
Yeah.
like just simplistic.
you work with the Army
like,
green.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the V is super simple.
Yeah.
Like you can do, there's endless possibilities.
Oh yeah.
And then
Good
and what
color
people
combos.
don't realize is what he's about to
Yeah,
refer to.
And
is-
yeah, we were just talking about it the other day. I get there and I think at the time they were redoing the clubhouse, the locker room, but that didn't really matter because all the dudes are just changing in the dugout, and they're all
there.
just changing into these plain black t-shirts, plain black hats.
the black mesh shorts.
I think y'all might have been in pants at that point.
Okay.
I don't think people were wearing shorts, but I've seen the whole all black getup with nothing. Like, and I think the coolest part about that is like, I think the point is that you got to earn your stripes. Like,
Yeah.
you got to earn the V, you got to earn whatever cool uni deal, whatever it was. That was the first thing that stuck out to me. And then the next thing was like, Corbin was like always moving around, like going from, you know, if he was hitting fungo or if he was feeding the ground ball machine, like he was still moving around and really engaging. And I love that. And, you know, he wasn't a big like screamer, yeller. From my understanding, it was a little more like he'll hit you in your heart. Like,
Oh yeah, no, there's
his
like
word choice.
Yeah, there's like an intensity. Like there's he's very intentional about
Yeah.
everything that's done, whether it's stuff that's said on field, in the classroom, in a meeting, like you name it. He has like very choice words picked out to empower his guys to be the best themselves, whether that's by holding them accountable, whether that's by inspiring them, whether that's by literally trying to get in their headspace to like,
Yeah.
you know, toughen them up in a way, you know. And it was never anything that was like, you know, that shouldn't be said or anything of that nature. It was just like very intentional and direct to help get the most out of you, which I always thought was like that's a special
So it's gift.
to be able to do that and to be able to put that much thought and intention. And like, I know you're kind of going into this part too of like just how they practice and why they do things a certain way. There's a reason, right? Like the intentionality isn't just with word choice, it's with practice plans or training, as we call it, with training plans, because it's all designed to help you become better.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like the idea of, hey, we're going to do, like if you have a good weight training coach, and hey, we're going to do this split or this lift today. This is how it works into what we're trying to achieve in 4 months, 6 months, or how it's going to affect
not just
your
throwing
body.
something against the
right.
wall.
We're not just bench pressing.
No.
Right.
We're going to have a plan, and each, not only that, it's tailored like to each person.
Right.
Yeah. I think, I love the word intentional.
Yeah.
Because I think there's like so much fluff sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, you could have strong words, you could have strong actions. But I think people respect Corbs definitely because of reputation, but nobody creates a good reputation for themselves without like establishing trust with the current group they got.
Right.
And, you know, you don't need to see much more after that. And Sam Leboki, he's a 5th year this year. And he went to Harvard Westlake, but he'd always say like Corbs would just like, he'd just press your buttons just enough. And it's like, yeah, like he doesn't need to rip your heart out because the guys that he have now bought into the Planet place and they know why you're saying it, where it's coming from, what he's trying to get out of you. And so I think like the official visits are great because they give you like a pretty close up look at like
an honest view.
Yeah. And you know, he sits you down in the classroom during, and I got my mom right next to me. She's like, "You're school," like, and like, but to my point, like at that point in my life, I probably needed Corbs, and I probably would have been better off for Corbs if I did decide to go for 3 years. You know.
Wait, so why didn't you?
Because I think
you were drafted in 2020, which is that's its own wild story, I'm sure, to begin with. Just because you get drafted and you don't play for a year, but what? I mean, I know you were drafted really high. What, 5th, right? By the Mets?
It was 19th. 5th was the Kellenick pick by the Mets, I think.
Okay.
But 19th, and it's funny, like pre-draft talk, it was like you're top 20 or you're going to school.
Right.
And so 19, like I started to sweat a little bit. And
like, Mom, but like really, I don't. I like,
yeah.
Basically, the thought was that if the money is right, you'll take it because then you do rely on who you are at the time and how that will work for you, and you know, find guidance elsewhere.
But you also were in I want to get back to that in a second, but you were also in a little bit of a unique situation anyways, with just like your folks and the guidance that they've been able to give you, and like the good head they've been able to give you and things of that nature. Like you were definitely mature enough to be able to handle like the money and the pressure and all that kind of stuff, because you had already kind of seen that, experience that throughout your childhood. It's not like you were just like taking the money and running. Like you were
Absolutely.
The money was a perk to be able to get into the career path that you ultimately wanted to be in.
Absolutely. The money sets you up for like some sort of ease, I think, going into such like an interesting new lifestyle. And yeah, like the money is just the part that really helps and gives you the peace of mind, I think. And at the end of the day, it was like, I'm going to play baseball anyways. I know what is required of me to you know, be a stand-up person on a daily basis. I think my mom was right. I probably could have gone to Vandy and been better for it, like I said. But
You ever thought about it?
hell yeah, all the time, all the time.
Like, what if you were to put your best like if hat on? What do you think the difference would have been?
I think the off the field routine. I don't know like what Corbs or what this person of Andy would have done for me. If my 3 years was in Nashville, I just think that like what was hardest for me in my first year of pro ball was once I got hurt and I'd only played 6 professional games. It's like what do I do now? Because rehab, waking up at 5:45, finishing your rehab by 9, and you just spent like an hour on an assault bike, and then you have 9 a.m. till the sun goes down to figure out
Do
what
whatever
to do.
you want. Do whatever you want.
Yeah,
Which is wild. That like
crazy.
a team would invest that much money in someone. So then, like, especially
Young.
even thinking about like anyone going through a rehab process of any kind, especially a long-term one. It's like, yeah, we're going to give you 12 hours of your day with nothing. Like, no structure, go figure it out, which is just kind of wild if you think about it.
Yeah.
I don't even, I mean, even if that happened to me now, I'd be like, I don't even know what to do with myself, And think about someone at 18, 19 years old trying to figure that out for themselves.
Well, yeah, and it's like a weird balance too of like your body needs time to recover, but you're sitting like, what do you?
But like the mental part, to me, like so much of pro ball and just growing up is like mental maturity, like mental growth.
Oh yeah,
emotional, spiritual, like all the like that is the part that gets missed out so often. I think the physical takes care of itself.
Absolutely.
Because you do it enough, right? Like some places are better than others in terms of structure, but you're going to get reps at least, right? Like you're going to take your BPs, you're going to, even if you're not hurt, like you're going to take your BP, you're going to take your mass ground balls, you're going to do your base running drills, like you're going to do all the drills.
Yeah.
But no one teaches you anything about managing money, which, at least coming from your situation, like your parents, I'm sure, were really great at assisting you in that regard. But like, what do I do with my time? Like, do I need to learn how to like pick up a book and read? Like, you know what I mean? Like what do
that's kind of no, but like how you're talking about managing money and stuff like that. We have this conversation at the high school level. Like, what are you really learning that's going to like, when's the last time you solved an algebra 2 equation, boys? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Unless your job requires it. Like, what life skills are you learning? Which I try to get a class started called literally life skills.
Yeah.
But it's like I tell kids all the time, like, hey, why don't they teach you like truly how to manage money or like pay taxes or like what is that? I'm like, why don't they teach you that? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, you ever thought? And I don't want to. Do they not want you to know? Like, you know what I mean? But like,
we'll go down that rabbit hole. But I mean, no, there's a lot of truth to it. I mean, and to me, and this is why Corbs is so great, because not that he's teaching you how to do your taxes, but he's setting you up for life success, right? And I think so often in pro ball, I think that part's missed because so much of it is really about like, what can you do for me on the field
as soon as possible,
right?
Yeah.
Which I get it too. It's a business model, but overall health of an individual, like you hear about all the horror stories of guys being done with careers, or they lost all their money, or they don't develop or acquire a skill. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, that's on you to learn those things. But it would be nice to have some guidance, like you were just talking about earlier with some of your younger coaches, like some true guidance on where do I start? How do I start? Do I learn about debits and credits and taxes and, Roth IRAs and this and that? Or is it like, imagine if you had taken all that time to like learn Spanish and then all of a sudden you can communicate with your teammates better, or like, there's so many different,
well,
like,
that's
avenues.
why I asked, like, I asked, man, a long time ago, like, is there so like, do you have like a person where like when you first came into the league, right? Was there like a couple of guys and you were kind of like, I mean, yes and no. Like everyone's gonna like. There's some people that are like more welcoming than the others, but at the end of the day, like you're kind of competing versus them. Like you're not. You're on the same team, but in a sense you are. Like so that's why I was so confused. I'm not confused, but I just feel like it's such a gap, especially with like younger. I can't imagine being 18, getting all this money, and then.
And then you're going and surround yourself with other kids that are around the same age. Like no one has anything figured out.
Yeah.
Right. Like either they're fresh out of college, they're a couple years old out of the Dominican or Venezuela or wherever, and that's the beauty of it because you're all like kind of in it for something bigger than yourselves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're only looking out for yourself because you're trying to move up levels.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you were to, not necessarily, let's say, do it again, but if you were to be like a director of like a farm system, like, would you try and implement some type of structure in that regard for players, or at least have like some programs available?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The Cubs do that a little bit too. But I think like one of my good outlooks on things that I have is like the work still has to be done, right? And like you said, you're gonna get the reps on the field, you're gonna get your base run reps, you're gonna hit BP, you're gonna do all of the baseball things that is just second nature. Like you don't got to think about, oh, I got to go take beeps right now, I got to go hit in the cage. Like you know what you're gonna do, your brain knows what your swing does, and so does your body. But it's like, maybe sometimes there shouldn't be the option, like, take Spanish class or not. Like, no, like, take Spanish class and let's explain to you why it's going to benefit you in the future. Like, we have so much time on our hands in the minor leagues, at the complex, in rehab, at like, whatever it is. And, like, that was the biggest thing. If I look back now on my time in Florida, I'm like, I still don't know what I would have done with my time. Because
you were at the complex, huh?
Yeah,
Port St. Lucie.
Low A was at the complex.
Yeah.
Got hurt while I was in Low A. Went right back to the complex. Living in the same house I was living in the entire time. Like, we had dudes sleeping on the air mattress. There was 2 of us hurt in there, and neither of us had a clue as to what.
So like, what
do with the rest of the day.
what was your process? Like, what did you do?
So you said you did rehab in the morning.
Yes, rehab in the morning. There was a good group of us there, and they worked us. Like, we're still in slings and stuff, and we're going like full effort on stationary bikes and whatnot. And
yeah, for 3 hours of your day though.
It was tough, man. Like, you're spending your time on the table, getting worked on, whatever it was, and doing your ERIR, all the good stuff. But man,
After 11 a.m. though, what did you do?
Yeah, I know.
That's a great question.
That's what I'm saying.
Why, it's crazy because I went through 2 major surgeries in my freshman year, and the first one was my foot surgery after I'd broken my foot, and I still had class to go to. So like it was class,
something.
It was class
Right.
to the field, to like being around and doing my rehab and like being around all my homies all the time.
Yeah, you got to be at practice.
Yeah, and then when I had my shoulder surgery in May, it was the same kind of thing, but I stayed for the summer, and it kind of got more to that where it was like I worked out in the morning, worked out and did my rehab, but I basically did 2 days. I was doing lifting in the mornings and conditioning with the football team in the afternoon. So like after all that, I mean, by then I was just like dead. Like playing dynasty mode NCAA football. Like that's what I was doing.
Yeah. I did pick up a book. I started reading, and I always kind of like bring books with me places, but I think I have a hard time like finishing the book. Like I can get into a role real quick, and then I have like one day where I don't read, and then it's like
Forget about it.
my focus gets drawn to something else, and I wish that I was a little bit better at that, but I definitely read a little bit. I love music, so I would just dive into all this different music, and when you're hurt like that, like words and songs feel very powerful, like that you find powerful and specific to you, like so paying attention to what people are saying, and just for me it was a big mental battle. I actually put a lot of time and focus into like, all right, dude, how are you gonna get through this mentally, and like how can you How can you try and see the light at the end of the tunnel every day while, you still got 5 months looking at looking dead in your face? Like, you still have 5 months of this, and you still can't even swing at that point. Like, how are you gonna get through this for yourself? Because, there was times where I started to see it could start to spiral. But there was always, like, divine timing, good timing. Like, my parents came into town here and there. My friends came into town here and there. But it's tough. Like, you didn't get to be around your low A team, even though they were at the complex. Like, they didn't want you in the dugout. And it's like...
Yeah, and truly, how many of those guys were, like, good buddies, too? Like, in
the
college.
dudes living in my house, like 3-4 guys.
Yeah.
So, but...
Been there.
If I was a farm director, though, I would say, like, hey, we're going to have, like... Because they'd have some of the mental skills people here with the Cubs. They'd recommend books and whatnot, but... Noah Syndergaard had a book club a couple years ago when he was with the Mets, and I don't just little things like that where it's like, hey, implement this, implement that, like make some things optional, make them mandatory, because again, like, you still got to do the work whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
But
One thing, when community is so important, we talk about this all the time. Like, community is so important, whether it's your family, your friends, your teammates, whoever. And I fall in this pattern and trap too of whenever I'm not really feeling like myself or feeling like I'm kind of like getting off the path a little bit, like being around people that love me and who I love, like that kind of gets the juices flowing again. And so often, and this is what you're kind of saying, is not giving someone an option really, is you're kind of tired and it's like a team dinner. You're like, man, we just had a 2-hour flight. Like, I've played a bunch of games in a row. Like, man, I'm just trying to go chill. And sometimes you just go chill, and then you really hate that you missed out on dinner with your boys. And then the times where you, like, muster up the energy and suck it up and go, it's like, oh, this was amazing. Like, I needed that. It's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it. And so that's where you're kind of saying of, like, community is important, but also, like, diving into that is important too. Like, not missing out on those opportunities to kind of pick yourself up, really.
And
like,
just because it's a mandatory thing, just because it's it still all depends on how you actually approach it and how you are when you're there. So, like, you're talking about a team dinner, like, who cares if it was mandatory or optional? Like, are you going to show up and be yourself?
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like when, the college coaches say, oh, well, it's optional practice.
Yeah, optional. Yeah.
Optional.
Yeah, I know what optional means.
Optional.
Yeah, I know what optional means.
I had the optional Saturdays too in high school.
I think too, like, you can have a good community, but like, if you got a group text your boys, all right, so are your boys like really like holding each other accountable? Like, not just you because you're the professional athlete. I don't know what your group text looks like, but
we have one.
We have one, like,
and we've been bad about it.
We have, but like,
I texted the other day. I like basically.
How y'all doing?
Yeah, I wanted to put together this text going into this year with it's me and him. Logan, Mitchell, Zach, and Evans are all our homies back home. It's like basically like this like community group text, like guys group text, prayer group text. Just like if there's something going on in your life, like I need to know about it because whether it's holding each other accountable to it or whether it's like you need my prayers or whatever it may be. It started off so strong, and then it's funny because it's wild how we don't like talking about the stuff that's going on in our lives too. Like even earlier in this year when I was like really grinding it with just like performance and everything, like and going through anxiety and all that stuff. It's like you don't bring that up. Like I'm not texting like, hey boys, like forgot how to hit. You might want to. You want to.
What were we supposed to say?
You want to lay something down for me? Yeah. We see,
yeah,
brother.
We've seen it, brother. I was
trust me. I saw the box score.
I recorded the whole game, brother.
Yeah.
But no, but yeah, I don't know. Like accountability is interesting, and then like leaders, because like I have different like I have one with Mitchell. That's obviously like him and I are. It's different because like and I don't know if you're like what are your boys average Joes like us or.
Why'd you point at me?
Like no, like yeah, no, not like I guess like us is in the other people in our group that he's talking about. People who work the 9 to 5.
No,
make America run.
So I have you said the other day, you're like, you have a lot of best friends, don't you?
He does. He does.
And to like, I do. And that's because I'm an only child. Like, I could get into it. Like, only child, I like surrounding myself with people. And, you know, I think as I've seen the last 3 years go, like, kind of post-surgery, my day-to-day conversations have been with, like, the guys that I played baseball with since I was 13, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We all work out together in the off-season still, and you know, we got one playing in low A with the Sox, high A with the Guardians, low A with us. You know, our trainer's in that chat.
Mm-hmm.
Ella Parker, freshman at Oklahoma, little softball player. I've surrounded myself, not intentionally, but just kind of how the way stuff works. Like, the time I've spent in person around these people has led to, you know, I think me and them building a better, stronger relationship. And I also have that group chat, though, with, like, my friends who don't play sports, who, you know, are still kind of getting into the real world of like, a real job search and internships and whatnot.
No, I keep forgetting he's younger than us.
Way younger, dude.
Yeah.
Way younger. All of our friends were like,
we have like,
we're like debating like, okay, wait, what's the due date of your kid?
Always about a second kid.
Yeah.
Nobody that I am in contact with is even close to that point. I don't think.
Yeah, we were there once.
Change is quick, brother.
We were there once, brother. Life will change.
Yeah.
Life will change. Growth and maturity.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
It's just interesting. Like, I think it makes sense that I talk to these people a little bit more, just because we have more to relate on, you know. And that's not to say that, like, these other guys, if we do talk, it's not great, because I love these people. But it is funny how, like, you worry about how you're gonna word something, like when you're going through something and you got to tell your boy, like, you just simply worry about how you're gonna actually tell them that, not like what it's actually about. Like, I feel like that blocks me sometimes from taking a step and being like, hey, like, I am going through this, I need your help, you know.
Pride gets in the way. Shame.
Yeah.
It's like that fear of being shamed for feeling a certain type of way or going through something. Like, I've always said, like, the enemy thrives in darkness, you know. And so the more we keep stuff in that is, like, truly the epicenter of what's bothering us, then the further we get away from being able to, like, overcome it.
Yeah,
and it just swallows you and swallows you and swallows you. And you think that you've addressed it, but you're kind of like lying to yourself, you know, in a way. We've all been there. And that's why, like, as men, I do think it's important to have those conversations with one another, or our spouse or whoever, right? And just, like, bring light to the darkness, because then you see it just, like, literally dissipate, like, in front of your eyes, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Our chat is... There's a lot of that, too, because it's different for, like, us, because we all grew up together. So he's the only professional athlete. I mean, we're professional pickleball players or whatever, but they, like, so I
want to be
some,
scratch golfers.
We're getting close.
Aren't we all, though?
We're getting close. But I think some of it too is, like, the accountability and just the willingness to reach out. So like for our chat, like, when Dan's reaches out, everyone, like, floods it, right? But then sometimes, like I may text Dan's individually off of the chat, but it's just kind of like everyone respects.
1 week later, I'll text him back.
Yeah,
I'm so bad.
And Dan's bad with his phone.
I'm so bad.
So then
I
think sometimes people may feel like, oh, well, we're invading his space, when really you're not.
I don't want to bother you when this is going on.
I hate texting him sometimes, 'cause I'm like, I just know, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he's got stuff to do.
Yeah,
but. So everybody does. So that's why I was interested with your chat, because it's kind of like the accountability of the group.
That actually just, it made me think a little bit about, because my friends that are the average Joe,
it's okay to say it. You know,
they are really good about reaching out to me. And I think it was like you say, I got a lot of best friends. Like, this chat was with, like, 16 of my friends, like, of, like, this greater friend group in high school. And looking back now, I'm not afraid to say, like, yeah, I really was only ever, like, that close with a smaller group out of the 16, you know?
Uh-huh.
I think I'm a lot like you. Like, I have a hard time getting the response in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
And that in itself weighs on me a little bit, because I feel like, and I know that I'm not holding up my end of the bargain as a friend, But when this feels like it takes up so much of my energy, like, we've talked about before, where all my energy is spent on the field, it doesn't really feel like I got the brain power to work up a good, genuine response sometimes. Or to take the extra step to hang out with the boys after a day spent at the field, Sometimes it feels easier to talk to the people that can relate a little bit more specifically, I guess,
Yeah.
But I think that was a good topic to bring up, I think, because the accountability of like what you put into it is what you get out, right? So, to the texting thing, it's like, sometimes it is as simple as like just texting them, hey, maybe I'm not feeling good enough to give you what you want right now.
Just a thumbs up or something, like,
yeah.
It doesn't take, like, the communication is, like, everyone knows, obviously. And, of course, it makes sense for you to talk to people that are within your realm. Just like I also would talk to people within my realm before I would text them something, just because, like, it's in now off season, I guess that's a different beast.
Yeah.
Right.
But in season, like, I know you guys are mentally exhausted, you're physically exhausted, you're traveling, like, it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting to me because we've never actually asked anybody about that. But our group's also kind of small.
Yeah.
I feel like
I mean, we keep
our circle pretty
things pretty
tight.
small. Yeah.
Yeah. Very specific.
Trust me, brother, when in 8 years, whenever you're our age, it'll be the same. It always does. I remember being younger and being like, dude, no way. My parents or whoever be like, yeah, it'll tighten up. And you're like, no,
happen.
no, like this person, that person, like, no, never.
Can't imagine.
It just does. Just natural, which
Yeah.
is fine. It's not like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just natural. It's
Cool.
natural.
What I got like one
Bring
or
it
two
on.
more things. I don't know how much longer y'all
Let's
want to
go.
do this, but
I'm probably getting on the 145.
Yeah, we got out.
Yeah.
what kind of like, how do you handle the ups and downs of the season, right? Because like you may go down, you may come up, and then like, when did you recently return back to
Milwaukee, right?
So
Like,
okay, so I saw you guys
A week and a half ago or whatever.
Yeah, I saw you guys the next series in Chicago.
Yeah, we were back home.
Yeah, and you're coming out firing, right? And like it's cool to watch. But how do you handle that of like going down, coming back up? Because it's got to. I don't know if it messes with you mentally or how does that work?
My answer is I don't know. Like, and there's more to that, but like I don't know. I don't know how I don't know ultimately like what the best way for me to handle that is yet. I guess since I got called up last year to now, there's been a lot of firsts, and this year's obviously my first year of like getting up here and then going back down and now being back up. I think the best thing that I've done so far, just in terms of like an approach to like, how are you going to set yourself up best to succeed, like with all of this stuff going on? Because he has to worry about that every day too, just in a different way.
Correct.
It's like taking things for what they really are, like what they really are in front of your face and how you see it. And then being able to like, if I'm going to go back to Iowa after I feel like I worked my tail off and whatever I took that was emotional, right? There was less passion, but more emotion because, I wasn't on the field and I had to process stuff about being on the field, off the field. And it's just a whole weird thing. But being able to like actually pay attention to what I learned up here and like what I feel like was really valuable to me up here, and then taking it back down with me and applying it there, whether that's an approach thing and what pitches I want to swing it, or how to just set my shit down calm in a calm fashion and, fight the urge to slam something or break a bat and whatever, you kind of battle with every day. But I'd say those two things is like just taking stuff for what it is. Like, I could zoom out and be like, hey, you did the bare minimum of what you were asked. Like you did what you were asked. You came up here and you played defense. Would you have liked to produce a little bit more offensively? Absolutely. But like, you're in AAA now. You're not up there right now. So just go hit in AAA. Like, it is what it is. You're in AAA. You're in Iowa. You're playing against the Indianapolis Indians, even though you just played Pittsburgh twice in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so what? You know? It's baseball. Like, you always end up playing the game. Playing the game, you're giving yourself a chance to get back to where you want to be, I guess. And that's what I've really felt comfortable with, is like, if you come up and you know, if I acted a fool, I don't think my time up here would have been what it was. I definitely wouldn't have learned as much. Like, forget about how long I actually would have been up here if I wasn't playing the part. I just wouldn't have been able to leave with as much as I, left with. Because he wouldn't have been sticking a hand out to give me a little grain of something, talk, Cody. Like, what I've found is, like, yeah, that actually is what I found, is that you put in what you put in, and usually what you get out is kind of like a reflection of how you put yourself into that moment.
So intriguing. Like, because, I was there too at one point.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because when you're going through it, the best piece of advice anyone ever gives you isn't really advice at all. And they're like, it's two things. It's confidence in yourself, and you just got to figure out what works for you. And, dude, when people would tell me that, I would get so angry. I'd be like, figure out what works for me, dude. I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't even understand. Like, figure what out? Should I figure that out? Should I figure this out? I feel like I got to figure the whole game out again. And the confidence in yourself, it's like, well, no, duh. But I need to, like, perform to be able to get that confidence. And then to be able to get that confidence. And then it's such a hard game anyways. It's a game of failure. And then all of a sudden, it just feels like you're, like, riding this roller coaster. And there's always a point in your career where you get this, like, firm, at least for me, this, like, firm conviction in something you believe in. And you pick up on those things throughout each year of, like, I am convicted in this, and I'm going to do this every day because I know it's going to bring me success over 162 games. And some years, like, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to find it. Like, for me this season, it took 2 months to kind of get to that space. My first full year in the big leagues, took me 4.5 months to figure it out, and getting sent down and coming back up. And so it's wild when you talk, like, no matter how much the game changes and evolves, the guys that make it are the ones that, like, figure out what works for them. And it drives me nuts, even the fact that I'm saying that, because it drove me nuts when I was younger, but it's just the truth. Because it's just the same as when you're raising kids. When you can teach them all you want. You can say, don't touch the stove, it's hot. Don't cross the street without looking, 45 times or whatever it may be. You have to fail in order to gain experience.
Yeah.
And experience is the best teacher, and the only way to get experience is to get experience.
Just to touch the stove. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why, as young kids, like, that come up, they're being taught so many different things that they don't even know which way to look, right? Like, whether it's game planning or whether it's this, that, and the other. And they get into this headspace that they feel like they're playing a completely different game than they've ever played before. Now, do I think that there's a bigger discrepancy in, like, in AAA and big leagues than it's been in a long time? Probably, when you just look at average fastball velocities and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, man, it's still the same game, bro. Like,
right. And that was kind of what, because we were, a couple of the guys were talking about it, of just like I was talking about it with my father-in-law, like when I saw you in Chicago, and you might have, I don't know if you had a couple of hits you put together or what, and you had a couple balls that probably should have exited the, I don't know what.
Wrigley.
Yeah.
It was 99 that way, 99 that way.
Yeah.
One was a little top spun.
Yeah, but I was sitting there saying like, okay, well, you look like you're playing like lights out baseball, if you know what I mean, like you look like you're the aggressor, you're attacking, you're having fun, you bringing energy, like you're bringing all of that. So it was interesting. We're like, do you think with him getting sent down, like did you get sent down and then all of a sudden be like, well, like I was not like cocky, arrogant, like I was just in the big leagues, but like, hey, I know what I'm doing, it's proven I can play at this level, like I'm gonna go ball out, and when I find it, like I'm gonna get hot.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
it was taken, because I got Willie Harris in my ear every day telling me to slow down, be you, and you could like really complicate those things. But what I've found is like there are usually very simple answers to like what feels hard in this game. Like there's usually very simple answers to a very hard game. You in spring training telling me to hey, like make things external, like finish like you're like you already find your finish. Like if you want to hit a line drive at the middle, get to the finish. Like it doesn't matter what happens, you're gonna hit the ball. It's flips.
Yeah.
Like don't make flips harder than it has to be. Because like what I've seen now is as my routine has become more simple and direct and focused, like I do less, I swing less, and I know what I'm doing going into the field every day. So like going back to AAA, it's like I if you look at it the wrong way, it definitely comes off as arrogant. But if you understand, again, like someone's intentions behind it, someone's reasons, like then you see it for what it is. And I came back knowing that I had just faced the best of the best. Like that doesn't get any higher than that. And so I'm going to treat AAA like AAA because AAA is not the big leagues. It is the same game, but it's not the big leagues. Like you're not going to see guys like Kevin Ginkel or like because he was on a heater last year going into the playoffs, and like that's kind of like the at bat that sticks into my mind where it's like he's throwing pitches that are fully in the zone that feel like they're out of the zone,
Yeah.
And you don't really see that in AAA unless you just got that one arm who's
right.
Who is gonna be the
probably
Kevin
not gonna be
Ginkel.
there that long,
Right.
anyways.
Like,
yeah.
And so I knew how to take my routine into the cages in Iowa, and that was probably the most important thing because it was like I ended up being able to do the same kind of daily thing as I was doing up here, which worked for me.
And I think what you're alluding to the most is you got to a point of learning how no matter who you're playing, no matter where you're playing, no matter what level you're playing at, that there's a level of controllables that you can control. And that was how you showed up to the field. That was how you went about your stuff at the field and how you competed that day. I mean, if you were to talk about like being simple, it's those three things, right? Like, how am I showing up to the field? Am I showing up fully as myself? Because that's who I'm called to be. And me being myself can move mountains, right? Like, God made you a certain way, made each of us a certain way. So the more consistent we show up as that, the more that he does the work through us. Number two, at the field, right? Like my routine. I know this is what works for me, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to stick to this process with good intentions of working to get better each and every day. And then once the game starts, bro, it's all about the competition. Like, it's all about competing. It's all about trying to win. It's all about...
Yeah, I was letting you keep going.
I was on a heater.
I know.
It's all about trying to compete to win the game.
Yeah.
And then guess what? Rinse and repeat.
I don't know. Like, to me, when you go, like, so you go down to Iowa and then you get your swagger back or whatever you want to call it, right? There's no secret fix. There's no secret stuff. But it's like you got this information, let's call it, from the league of what works well for you. Then you get to Iowa and then you're playing, but, like, you're kind of in your flow state. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
You're just playing baseball. And then it's now taking that flow state to, like, you know what I mean? Like, they always say, well, the game slows down. And it does. Like, the longer
Absolutely.
you play it, it does slow down. Like, everything just slows down to where you can recognize things. You can, you know where the ball is going to be hit before they even hit it. You know what I mean? Just based off what they're throwing.
Well, but the mental, I'm telling you, the mental block is so challenging in our game, especially when it comes to what he's kind of alluding to is like, you may have your swagger, you come back up, put together some good at bats for a couple days, and then there's just one day where you just like don't feel like you got it, which happens. We play so many games.
Gosh,
You feel like you don't have it, and then all of a sudden, the first question, it's wild, dude. I'm telling you, the first question you ask yourself is like, I mean, I got it, but like, do I really got it? Like, you come up to the big leagues and it's like, man, I was crushing these fastballs in AAA. Now I get here and I can't hit a fastball to save my life. Like, is there, like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah,
And you literally internalize and you create your own problems by self-doubt or talking to yourself a certain type of way instead of just literally like just controlling the controllables like we just talked about. It's dude, I like feel it in my bones right now because I've been there of like, oh my gosh, like I did it yesterday, but like I don't know if I can do it today. Like I've been there.
But there's
I've
so
been
many
there.
things that you can't control in this game. Like similar to golf, similar to like, I mean, similar to football. There's a holding call, or there's a hold
every play.
in every play. But like, you don't really see guys complaining about that much. In our sport, you can't really complain that much until it's clear that like an umpire's messing you up, like, or something glaring. Because like, at the end of the day, if like a pitcher's just missing the zone by that much and he's calling it a strike, it's still kind of like you tip your cap. Like,
It's a good pitch.
and it's like, but how do you be okay with taking that still? Because it is a ball and it's not what you want to swing it. Like, you can't control what he does and how he calls it. So
The hitting coach goes, I don't want you to swing outside your zone. Then you're like, I'm not, but I keep coming back to the dugout as a strikeout because I'm not swinging.
that's what was happening.
Like, what do you want me to do? And the next thing you know, I'm in AAA. Like, what do you want me to do?
But that's what was happening to you a lot when you were kind of scuffling a second ago, was like these pitches that are some maybe close and others not close. Like, you're simultaneously getting you can't control, like, and you're not feeling great. Like, that's kicking somebody when they're down, but the game just does that to you, I guess.
Well, it's the difference in going good and going bad. When you're going bad, nothing's over the middle of the plate. Every borderline call goes against you. At least it feels that way. You go up there and it's like, man, this might as well already be 0-2. Like 0-2, baby. Like, battle. But when you're going good, like, all the pitches seem to be down the middle. You don't miss them.
Yeah.
Even if you foul one off, you're like, whatever. I'm going to hit the next one.
Yeah.
Dude.
You're like, I hope you throw that same thing.
Throw it again. Throw it again.
And
That's fine.
more often than not, like, if you don't throw that same pitch, but it feels like the same pitch.
And if you get out, you go up to the next batter like, hey, like, I hope I face this guy again.
Yeah.
Like, he got lucky.
Yeah.
And then when you're going bad, you're like, man, I hope that they change this pitcher.
Bullpen?
Or bullpen guy. Or
Yeah.
Call to the pen.
It's like when you're on it, but you just slightly mishit it, and you're just like,
Nobody wants to hear you say good swing after that, too, is what I'm starting to realize. Like, another thing is, like, if you just miss a ball, people would rather, like, not hear anything from you instead of getting their, like, that
Dude.
pat on the butt and being like,
Yeah.
good swing.
I've gone back and forth on that, and I'm still guilty of it. Like, hey, man, swing it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I was out.
I have a hard time not complimenting you for it, though, because it's like, this shit is so hard. Like,
like
Yeah.
the equivalent
Yeah.
to like golf when someone hits it in the hazard, and you're like, well, it sounded
you
good.
still
Yeah.
that was pure.
Hit that one good.
Yeah, you smoke one and it like somehow barely rolls into the bunker or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, where's your ball? You're like, oh, it's in the bunker. You're like, really?
Oh.
I thought you crushed that drive then, huh? you're like, yeah, but I still got to hit this out of the bunker.
Yeah,
I'm
still in
180
the
out.
bunker.
Yeah, I'm
It's
still
not
in the bunker.
Not ideal at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But the controllables is huge.
Yeah.
Like, pick the things you can, focus on them.
Yeah.
It helps me. It has helped me a lot. A lot.
Yeah. Be committed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Convicted, committed, all that stuff.
Intentional.
Intentional.
It's a word of the day.
Yeah, that's our new word of the day.
I like
Intentional.
it.
Be intentional.
You got any closing remarks?
No, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Man,
I was
this
excited
is
when
great.
He was like,
Thanks.
yeah, we got Pete coming on. I was like, oh, let's do it.
This is
So-
great.
Love it.
Give it a little fresh young buck perspective, life perspective.
Good start to my day,
We
too.
need to bring him and then Jan.
And then do a joint one with me and Jan, though.
That's what I'm saying. No.
Oh, yeah.
We already had Jan on.
We had
We'll sit you two
Jan and
together.
Madge, yeah.
Yeah. Get us on together. I'd love that. That'd be so fun.
great.
Jan's
we
the man,
appreciate you,
too.
dude.
Man, I appreciate
This is
you.
great. This is
And
great.
you, both y'all.
Yeah.
Us old heads.
Yeah, we're old.
All right, bro. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Of course. Hey.